We start with a fancily dressed beast in a mystical forest complaining about humans. He sees a baby by itself, and upon inspection he notices it has a strange power, a power he's strangely familiar with. But he notices an old man and decides to flee. But before he does, he predicts that he and the child may meet again someday. As the old man approaches the baby, another child appears, a boy! Fast forward 16 years and the children have grown up. The boy, Aldo, is waken up by his sister, Fine. And yes, her name is spelled like it should be Fane, but watch the old trailers and it's pronounced Fine, okay? Fine. So it looks like the old man, tenderly called Gramps, has raised the kids as his own. We find out Aldo is a village guard alongside with his buddy, Darrenus, and while on guard, Aldo visits Ashtir. If you're a fan of the Chrono series, you'd recognize her as Luca Ashtir, which isn't a coincidence as one of the original minds behind the Chrono series, Masato Kato, played a big part in creating Another Eden. And for the die-hard fans, Luca also makes an appearance in Xenogears. Ashtir talks to Aldo about Prisma, those elemental objects you see in the village. She says they are crystallizations of the four basic elements: fire, water, earth and wind, and the theory is that they were formed deep within the earth over long periods of time. She says they're the cornerstone of civilization and are actually the four main elemental units you originally started with in the game. Remember Ashtir and these Prisma as they're both important in the story. Fine invites Aldo to help make a cane for the mayor to thank him for 16 years of being their Gramps. Afterwards, when Fine heads home, Aldo finds himself chasing after the family cat, Varro, into some kind of vortex, which in turn leads to the Gallery of Dreams. Here he meets the Dumbledore-looking Gallery Master. The Gallery of Dreams hosts the gacha mechanic of the game where you can unlock new characters. But remember the Gallery Master as he plays an important part in the story. While Aldo is doing gacha pulls, the Beast King and his lackey Varys enter the town looking for Fine and capture Fine! Aldo confronts the Beast King by calling him a creep, and the Beast King says he needs Fine's power to destroy humanity. The Beast King easily beats Aldo, but all of a sudden, Aldo's sword wakes up. The Beast King recognizes it as Ogre Rancorum. It tells Aldo to take up its power and avenge his slaughtered clan. Aldo grabs the sword and it becomes super fancy with special effects and beams and stuff. The Beast King then shows off his own sword and it becomes a sword measuring contest. The Beast King, whose sword is clearly a few inches longer and thicker, wins once again but spares Aldo's life in respect to Ogre Rancorum. Aldo wakes up and they're gone. He chases after them in the Moonlight Forest, encounters Varys and beats him. Varys says Fine is in the Beast King's castle and unleashes multiple chimeras on Aldo. Just as it looks like Aldo is about to lose, he's suddenly sucked into a Terminator 2 looking vortex, and we flash to a catchy JRPG intro. After the catchy JRPG intro, we return to Aldo. The Terminator 2 vortex teleported him to the future! But unlike the Terminator 2 vortex, he keeps his clothes on. Aldo teleports right in front of Amy. Naturally, Amy is skeptical that he time traveled and reveals to Aldo that it's the year 1100 AD. That's 800 years after Aldo's present year of 300 AD. Amy concludes that Aldo is crazy but still tells him to visit her at her weapon shop. Aldo bumps into an android named Rika who's being attacked by synth humans, a robotic race that are enemies of the humans in this timeline. Aldo and Rika team up to beat them, and from then on, Rika joins your team. She tells Aldo that what brought him from the past was a tear in the space-time continuum, but she doesn't understand what caused it. Aldo and Rika enter the bustling city of El Zion to meet Amy at her weapon shop. Here they meet Zaol, Amy's dad, who recognizes Aldo's gear as actual armor from 300 AD. Amy gets some intel that a synth-human captain named Galliard is hiding in the industrial ruins. She suggests she and a small party should infiltrate, and her dad, Being such a caring dad suggests Aldo, this young, complete stranger with ancient weapons, join her in enemy territory where the captain of an army of advanced robots are hiding, instead of being there to protect his daughter himself. Anyway, on the way there, Aldo and Amy bump into a young genius named Sebastian. She shows them a sound orb left by one of the synth humans, the hero recording from Amy's mother that says, "Sleep well, my dear Amy." They look for more remnants of the orb at the airport, where Amy says her mother died during the synth human rebellion 10 years ago. No one expected the synth humans to attack. Her mother saved Amy by putting her in a cargo ship while staying behind and telling Amy that she loved her through the cargo ship window. Since then, they do not know what became of Amy's mother. Galliard, the leader of the synth human, appears. He says he came for the sound orb. What? He says synth humans have this thing for human souvenirs, but instead of trying to get it, he says there's another orb like this one in Route 99. They go to Route 99. Galliard plays the next sound orb, which has another touching message from Amy's mother about how much her parents love her. Then Galliard gets super philosophical and says what makes humans humans are memories. Synth humans, on the other hand, are just hard drives that store data. Replace the data and there's someone new. That's why they're attracted to human mementos. If synth humans can find these items, then maybe they can find their souls. Our heroes beat the synth human up, only to find that it's not Galliard, but an underling. He gets super emo and then dies. Sebastian repairs the second orb that they got from the synth human. It plays a complete and heartfelt happy birthday message from Amy's mother, and Amy, touched by this message, vows to rid the world of hate and to create another Eden. Hence, one reason for the title of this game. What's the other reason? You'll find out very soon. It's a big one. After that emotional detour, our heroes infiltrate industrial ruins to find the real Galliard. They overhear him mentioning a timequake occurring just as someone named Professor Kronos predicted. Galliard says space-time is stretched and the world doesn't have much longer. Our heroes have a battle with Galliard. Our heroes win, and in his dying breaths, Galliard warns them of a coming disaster caused by a timequake. His colleague Helena remains to take care of his body while our wounded heroes spare her and leave the wreckage. The city has a big celebration about our hero's victory. Everything's great until everything disappears. What? Aldo appears in what looks like an obliterated Elzion. A being named Phantom appears, explaining that the future Aldo saw no longer exists. He tells Aldo that all of this began 16 years ago when he was swallowed by the dimensional vortex and lost sight of his true self, whatever that true self might be. He says to get answers, Aldo must overcome the constraints of time, save his sister, and reclaim his destiny. Phantom disappears, leaving behind a vortex. Unsure of what to do, Aldo jumps in. We get a flashback of a young Fine running into a young beast girl named Altena in the woods. Fine heals Altena's sprained ankle, and from there they become besties. Aldo and Rika land in ancient times and rescue a boy named Varen just in time from being eaten. Aldo wonders why Rika still exists when everyone in the future vanished. Rika doesn't know the answer. Varen asks them to meet this fire thing named Salamander in the Nadara volcano because he's been acting funny, you know? And they're like, okay, sure. They fight him, and apparently he'd been possessed by a foul miasma. Salamander tells them that the spirits are affected by something not from this world, and he senses a disturbance in Parsifal Palace. In Parsifal Palace, they meet King, you know it, Parsifal. King Parsifal reveals that he's been warned by some oracle of their arrival. He'd constructed the Tower of Time to alter the future for his own gain, and Aldo gets mad at him about it. The king teleports Aldo and Rika away and does this evil bad guy laugh, just in case he didn't know he's meant to be the bad guy. Aldo and Rika appear in a swamp, and Aldo says a very naughty word. He says, dang, and says Parsifal's gonna pay when I get hold of him. But there's a silver lining in everything as they meet a speaking frog samurai named Cyrus, who fans of the Chrono series would recognize. He joins the party. Cyrus takes Aldo to Parsifal Palace to see Ratchet, who may know more about his sword, Ogorankarim. Ratchet is surprised to see Cyrus in frog form, but he tells her it's a story for another time. Ratchet helps Aldo release a portion of the sword's power. Ogre Rankrum thanks Aldo for this and says that the beast folk wiped out their entire clan. He will lend Aldo his power to eliminate every single beast. Cyrus notes that the sword looks very similar to King Parsifal's. Our heroes enter the Tower of Time, which looks like a giant anime donkey's ding-dong with huge eyeballs, and Rika confirms this by saying the tower is a living organism. They reach the top and see a room with monitors displaying infinite possible future worlds. It all seems to be controlled by these giant metallic baby head mask things that look super scary. After our heroes beat these heads senseless, Aldo asks them to change the future once again so Elzion doesn't vanish. The baby head thingies, apparently called Viz's embryo, comply, and then Aldo, being the gentleman that he is, orders Rika to shut it all down, essentially killing the baby heads. They die with these sad, lifeless looks in their eyes. Thank you, Aldo. You know, I've been wanting to spread a conspiracy theory that Aldo is actually the villain in this game, but more on that another time. When they think it's over, Phantom appears! He thanks Aldo for putting them back in the normal timeline because that means the world can be put to destruction once more. He says that the Xeno Prisma amplifies temporal distortions, sending shockwaves through space-time. These distortions apparently cost a lot of energy, and with too much energy spent, there will be a time quake, essentially destroying the world. Phantom explains this was all going to happen until King Parsifal changed the future. So if Aldo didn't meddle, the world would have been saved. Well, of course, at the cost of Tifa, Amy, and everyone else in the future. Before Phantom disappears, he says, "Farewell, Aldo, Kit of Kronos." Aldo's like, huh? And then our heroes get pulled into a vortex. We get another flashback of Fine and Altena in the Moonlight Forest defending themselves against a gang of kids who hate beasts. They're about to get into a brawl until a young Aldo scares the kids off. Aldo tells Fine it's time to go home, and they leave Altena on her own looking sad. Back to present day, or whatever day it is, and our heroes find themselves in a strange place. Aldo wonders why he was called Kit of Kronos, and Rika says there was a researcher in Elzion named Professor Kronos. Maybe there's some kind of connection. Our heroes wander into a bar and speak to a bartender called Master. This Master guy says he's been expecting them. He says the bar is a refuge for those who have lost their way. He says there are pillars of light outside the bar. One of them will help our heroes get back home. Before they do, he says they should visit Lady Mid. She's the old person you talk to in the game if you want to side grade or upgrade your characters. Our heroes travel through one of the pillars and end up back in Aldo's time, present time, in the Moonlight Forest. They visit the mayor, who says that the beasts have been acting up and Fine has been seen with them. After promising to return once the adventure is over, our heroes venture to Miglance Castle to ask King Miglance about the beasts. They volunteer to help him investigate a beast sighting in Karak Swampland, only to see weird creatures named Mobeka and Popori, who remind me of the M&M mascots, and the guys from Mythbusters. Rika explains they're peaceful offshoots of beast folk, and they say they're also friends with Fine. In fact, they're more than just friends, huh? Mobeka and Popori warn Aldo that Ogre Rankarum is lying to them. They say that 3,000 years ago, there was a great war between ogres and beasts. Thunder King, the leader of the humans, wielded a legendary sword. After the ogres were wiped out, they infused all their resentment and hatred into that sword. Apparently, it wasn't the beast folk who wiped out the ogres, but the humans. Ogre Rankarum wants to extinguish all life, but wants to wipe out humans most of all. And it has a particular hatred towards Aldo. We don't know why yet, but it went to Borowoki to specifically find Aldo. Ogre Rankarum finally appears in full form. He's been busted, and man, he has big feet. He says his plot to slay both humans and beast folk has been foiled, but if Aldo beats him in a fight, he'll continue lending Aldo his power? Aldo beats him, so Ogre Rankarum promises to continue lending Aldo his power, and then the conversation ends. Mobeka and Popori change the subject completely and warn Aldo that the beasts have now made their way to Miglance Castle. But our heroes get to Miglance Castle too late. It's been invaded and there's chaos everywhere. The beasts have the king hostage, making it difficult for our heroes to make a move. The Beast King says the humans got their power from Prisma. As the descendants of the elemental spirits, they're the right rulers of the world. All of a sudden, Amy appears, giving Aldo and friends a chance to fight the Beast King. They beat him once and he transforms to final boss form, who Rika names Gildner. They beat him, Fine and Altena appear. Fine can't speak as her consciousness has been sealed by beast mages. The Beast King says he doesn't know why, but Fine is the key to unleashing the untapped power of the elements. Why he's telling his complete strategy to Aldo? Who knows? The Beast King leaves his mission to Altena, apparently sister, then takes his own life? Altena leaves with Fine, promising Aldo that the beasts will be the new rulers of the world. Outside, the king thanks our heroes for saving the day, and Amy explains she found a vortex to find Aldo. That's why she's there. There's a time quake, and Rika says things could get worse if they don't do something about it. Our heroes travel to Elzion to find clues about Professor Kronos, who may know something about what's going on. Amy says Professor Kronos led a whole team of Elzion's brightest scientists to find the truth about Prisma. They track down one of the scientists who worked with the professor, but he was sworn to secrecy. Before they leave in defeat, the scientist's son says the scientist has a bit of a drinking habit, but a very specific drinking habit. Apparently he'll talk if they give him a drink that is thousands of years old called Mirth Punch. Also, what kind of snitch is that guy's own son? Our heroes travel back in time to find the Mirth Punch, only to be blocked by a monster named Lord Ukulele. They beat him up and he lets them have the punch. Remember Lord Ukulele for the future. Our heroes give the alcoholic scientists this Mirth Punch. He says one day, 16 years ago, Professor Kronos' entire family just disappeared. He said if they wanted to find out more, they should go to Xeno Domain, where his family used to live. To get there, they need to go through Elzion's leader, the administrator. Sebastian, his chess buddy, gives them an opening to meet him. He says the last project Kronos worked on was shrouded in mystery, and one of his experiments may have led to his disappearance. On their way up to Xeno Domain, Phantom appears briefly to tell them what they're doing is meaningless. In the domain, they see a hologram image of Professor Kronos, his wife, Professor Madoka, and two kids, Eden, the boy, age 3, and Cecile, the girl, age 0. The room blacks out and a new hologram appears. Professor Kronos speaks, saying that his message will only appear when a family member is in the room. He says Prisma was developed 400 years ago. It artificially amplifies the energy output of normal Prisma, which is the Prisma Ash Tia showed Aldo in Bariwaki at the start of the game. But this artificial harnessing caused temporal distortions that, if unchecked, causes damage to all space and time. When realizing this, Professor Kronos started developing a safer, more efficient version of Prisma, Geo Prisma, but it was too late. It was only a matter of time before the Geo Prisma blew. To give his kids a brighter future, Professor Kronos developed a prototype, the Alpha Geo, and implanted a piece of it into his son Eden's newborn body. He made improvements to this Geo over 3 years, placing a new Geo Prisma inside his youngest child, Cecile. He says if they are ever watching this video, the world is facing disaster and the siblings are key to preventing this. He finishes his video by saying he will begin his final experiment and that he has to take responsibility for what he has done. He hands the recorder over to Professor Madoka, their mother, who says she loves them very much before saying goodbye. Our heroes find a room that contains prototype cores, Xeno and Geo, used to develop the new Prisma. They fight a security bot which seems to erupt everything. A masked man who looked like he just came from a sus costume party appears. It's the Oracle, the one who'd been whispering in King Palsifold's ears, encouraging him to change the future. He says the Xeno prototype is breaking down, warping space-time. This has opened a gateway connecting to a plane of existence different to theirs called Corridor of Time Layers. Apparently, they'll be able to eliminate the time distortions if they go through it somehow. They tell the plan to the administrator, who says he can get them there by using a giant beam that will break them into beams of light and send them there. And heroes go, "Yep." Thankfully, the beam works and the place looks like the visions of someone on a massive trip. They fight against a boss that's a physical form of a temporal distortion. They beat it, thinking that by beating it they'd somehow save the world. Phantom appears, claiming the end of the world has already begun. He says his brethren have begun pushing an entire continent into the corridor of time layers. The force of the impact will result in a shock equal to that of a time quake. It looks like the world is getting destroyed across all timelines and our heroes have failed. That is, until we see Salamander and the other elemental spirits interfering. Aren't you glad we saved this guy? Saying, "Child of man, we entrust the future to you." The elementals sacrifice themselves to save the world. A giant timequake shakes the world, and meteors from the 4 great elementals scatter throughout. But thanks to their interference, the world doesn't end somehow. But we're not safe yet. We see a giant dimensional vortex, which the Phantom calls a pit of infinite chaos. 5 days later, Aldo, in an unfamiliar beach, laments that they failed at stopping the quake from happening, but the damage would have been worse if not for the sacrifice of the elementals. Somehow. The gallery master appears and says Aldo still has a chance of turning things around. They just need to stop that dimensional vortex from sucking everything up like a Dyson vacuum cleaner. The other heroes find Aldo and give each other a much needed morale boost. There must be a way they can save the world. They decide to find a clue at time's forgotten stop. Master tells them he heard the synth humans are up to something that could be related to the dimensional vortex, and they should investigate this place called Lawler Dome. They go to Lawler Dome and find out the synth humans are building an interdimensional warship called Synth Hydra, which they plan to fly into the vortex to manipulate history. Aldo, the genius of the group, comes up with a super smart idea to get a pyrotechnician to load them up into cannons and fire them into the Synth Hydra. The pyrotechnician agrees. Before they shoot off, they suddenly realize it might be a bit dangerous, so they decide to visit the synth human Helena, who might help them bypass security. Even if they killed Galliard, they convince her to help them for the sake of the planet. Helena also says that it's probably something her and Galliard's creator, Professor Kronos, would have wanted. They infiltrate the ship, which is part machine and part organic, and reach the head. The ship introduces itself as the Riftbreaker Synth Hydra. Our heroes deal with Synth Hydra like they deal with every problem in their lives so far. Beat it to a living pulp! It begins to crash. Helena tries to prevent Synth Hydra from falling, and when you think she's going to fail, what looks like the spirit of Galliard appears to give her strength. They break the fall. Our heroes begin repairing Synth Hydra and convince him to join their cause. They fly to Antiquity to speak to the Oracle for some clues. It seems he still hasn't changed his sus costume party getup. And then he reveals he's actually Professor Kronos, who traveled from the future. What? He says when he discovered the damage Xeno Prisma was doing, he started work on Geo Prisma, and when Xeno and Geo prototype cores reached maximum output, they tore a hole in spacetime, leading him to Antiquity, maybe because the Prisma were drawn to the elemental spirits. Just in case that didn't make sense, here's Prisma explained in plain English.
Prisma is the elemental stuff like earth, wind, water, and fire that makes the world go round. Think of it like electricity. Without electricity, people can't use Wi-Fi, and without Wi-Fi, everyone will be sad. Mankind decided to exploit Prisma to the max, and they did this through a process called Xenoprisma. The problem is, they used Xenoprisma too much to a point where the energy used to harness it could very well destroy space and time. Professor Kronos tried to create a safer type of prisma called Geoprisma to prevent this from happening. Geoprisma are made of 2 prototype cores, Xeno cores and Geo cores. Yes or no, it's confusing that one is also called Geo. When experimenting with these cores, something went wrong, tearing a hole in spacetime, leading him to Antiquity.
Back to the story. In Antiquity, Professor Kronos realized he could stop fate by altering history so that the Xenoprisma never came to be, deciding the lives that would be lost from altering history would be a small sacrifice compared to the complete destruction of time. When the day arrived to put his plan into action, he sent his whole family through the wormhole. He tells Aldo to meet him at the Tower of Stars, where he can reveal more. Our heroes reach the Tower of Stars. Kronos explains it's his research facility where he studied the elementals. He created a special alloy using both Geoprisma and the fundamental power of the spirits that fell from the skies when the elementals sacrificed themselves. But working with the hazardous material has eaten away at his body. That is why he wears a mask. Putting it in a safe container, he offers the Geometal to Aldo to help him save the world. Before Aldo even has a chance of quality Father Son time, King Pulsifal appears and slashes Kronos. Turned into a madman after losing everything, King Pulsifal believes ruin is the only truth left in the world. our heroes beat him up. Aldo holds Professor Kronos in his arms. Kronos says that to deal with the grief he felt for not being able to see his family again, he threw himself at his work. And he was happy to see Aldo again and to know that Aldo and his sister grew up together. Kronos says something strange to Aldo though. He says, it's you? Ah, I see now. This must have been fate. He says he was glad Aldo stopped his plans and set him on a new path. He tells them that his associate Gallia II will tell them the rest, and then Kronos dies. Gallia II gives them a primeval gem, that special alloy that Professor Kronos was talking about. The primeval gem mitigates the effects of the miasma surrounding the dimensional vortex, allowing them to enter it without hassle. Gallia number 2 explains that many thousands of years ago, before there were elementals, the forces of chaos and order clashed. The resulting dimensional vortex dispersed chaos through the universe, while order became stones like the primeval gem. As the heroes get ready to fly into the vortex, the Beast King's henchman, Varus, appears via a tear in space-time and says the birth of the savior of beastfolk is coming, and he invites them to the castle to see it happen. Our heroes reach the throne room of the Beast King's castle to see Alterna with Fine. Fine says there's a strong voice inside her, telling her not to side with the beasts. The Prisma that Professor Kronos placed inside her is activated, and the power of countless worlds gets poured into Fine. Aldo tells Fine the Prisma was designed by their father not to be used for war, but Fine can't control it. Fine combines with Alterna, and they transform into a boss named Xenogears, the ultimate form of Elemental and Prisma combined. As usual, our heroes solve this dilemma by beating Xenogears senseless. Fine and Alterna are normal once more. Alterna says she couldn't bear dragging Fine down with her and so let her live. Alterna takes her life. And just to brag about the pain we cause the beasts, the game gives us Alterna's tears. Yay! Our heroes return to Barawoki and explain to Fine everything that happened before heading out to their final mission to stop the dimensional vortex from eating everything and ending the world. Synthhydra loads the primeval gem's energy into its cannon and fires. Our heroes enter and reach the journey's end. Here they see Phantom again. Phantom says there's nothing they can do anymore, but remember, what do our heroes do whenever they're faced with a really difficult problem? They beat the living daylight out of it. They beat up Phantom and it works. Phantom concedes, but then he says he must entrust the future to him. Aldo asks, him? And Phantom says it's someone he knows very well. And then this giant being emerges from the vortex, a prisoner held captive in Kronos Umbra, the center of the vortex, and its name is Kronos Menace. It doesn't take long for our heroes to conclude this Kronos Menace thing is screaming Alpha Geo energy. Remember Alpha Geo? It's the prototype Professor Kronos placed into his first son, Eden. Wait, what? Isn't Eden Aldo? Phantom explains that 16 years ago, when the Kronos family was separated, Eden was thrown into the very heart of the dimensional vortex called Kronos Umbra. He has lain there ever since, a prisoner of chaos. Cecile, as we know, was sent to Moonlight Forest and was renamed by the mayor as Fine. But what we didn't know is that Cecile, aka Fine, was also sent there with Kronos' pet cat, Kairos. As a protective mechanism, the Prisma within Fine implanted the form of her brother into Kairos, making the cat look exactly like her brother, Eden. Hence another reason for the title of the game, Another Eden! Aldo was never really Fine's biological brother, but actually the family cat, Kairos. Fine's Prisma only made the cat take the form her real brother, originally named Eden, who the mayor later named Aldo. In summary, Aldo is a cat, and that's why he's not too keen on women. But wait, there's more. Phantom explains that's why when Alzine vanished, Aldo didn't vanish with it because he wasn't technically part of the future. In fact, Kairos was originally named Soric, a cat who was missing in Barawoki. The cat vanished because it wandered into a tear in space-time and ended up in the future. It was adopted by Professor Kronos and named Kairos. But that still doesn't explain why Rika didn't vanish along with everyone else in Elzine. Can anyone explain this? Because I don't think they explained it in the game. Anyway, our heroes band together to enter the heart of the dimensional vortex, Kronos Umbra, to rescue Eden. They confront Eden, and Fina says Eden helped Fine and Kronos, who's now named Aldo, get out of the dimensional vortex and into their timeline, and because of that sacrifice, he's now all alone in pain and misery. But he won't hear them. This looks like a complicated situation, so our heroes do what they do best and beat Eden to a pulp. Eden, in return, swallows them, and inside they meet the real Eden, a sensitive, glowing being with wings. They also beat it to a pulp! After beating Eden senseless, Aldo transforms into Kronos to help Eden come to. He leaps on Eden, causing a quick flashback of their family in peaceful times. Eden does come to his senses, and he tells his seal, aka Fine, that it's time to let their powers go. He releases Alpha Geo, and Fine releases her Geo Prisma, and they both save the world. Yes, I know it's confusing as fuck. Eden thanks Fine for not giving up on him and that he will always love her. He tells her to live a happy life before saying goodbye and then vanishing. We then see our heroes and the mayor by a cliffside, this time without Aldo or Eden. The companions leave, leaving Fine and the mayor behind. We get some finale dialogue, but wait! Both Aldo and Varro appear in their room. The siblings have an emotional reunion. And we get a JRPG closing montage! Amy leaves some flowers for her mother. Sebastian, Galliard, and Rika do some random stuff with cats. Cyrus gets his belly rubbed in Parsifal Palace. Helena flies through the skies with Synth Hydra. They head straight into a vortex. Aldo wakes up to see his friends who say the adventure isn't over yet. There must be a way they can save Eden, and Fine says she can still hear Altena. Maybe she's alive. Amy says there was something green in Altena before she passed. It could have been Fine's Geoprisma protecting her. Rika says the same green thing appeared with the Beast King before he passed. Will our friends save Eden, Altena, and Gildner, the Beast King? And what of Ogre Rankarum? He surely has unfinished business. And what does Ash Tyr, who I mentioned earlier in the video, have to do with any of this? And where is their mother and Kronos' wife, Professor Madoka? And why on earth is Cyrus a frog? Fine officially joins the party, and we've wrapped up part 1 of the main story.